Okay, so one question that comes up a lot is, should I get an SP01 regular version, whether it's the tactical or the safety model, and just upgrade it with Cajun Gunworks parts, or should I get a Shadow? What's better? So the short answer is, if you're on a budget, especially if you're, I mean, regardless of whether or not you're a competitive shooter, but especially if you're on a budget and not a competitive shooter, I would get an SP01 safety model. This is the tactical with the decocker. Don't get this. Get the safety model. Do not pay more than $550. Get it online if you have to. Don't just walk into a gun store. They're going to charge you $7. Get it on Gunbroker or something, or Arms List. Don't pay more than $550. Get a safety model, and over time, shoot it stock a bunch, and then put $200 worth of Cajun Gunworks parts in it, and you can have a hot rod that is going to be, better than a Shadow. Frankly, better than a stock Shadow. Okay, it's not going to be better than a Cajun Gunworks Shadow, but it'll be better than a stock Shadow. And frankly, if you're just a recreational shooter, like, you wouldn't really, the difference between the two would be so marginal, and it's not going to make you a USPSA Grandmaster anyway. So just do that, okay, if you're on a budget. If you're a gamer shooting USPSA, Steel Challenge, whatever, I would get the Shadow for a couple reasons. And then I would also upgrade it with Cajun Gunworks parts. This one is upgraded too with a Pro package, except for the Reach Reduction kit, which I don't have in there now, but I wish I did, because at the time it wasn't production legal. So that's the short version. Okay, if you're going to shoot USPSA, whatever, get a Shadow. If you're not, just get the regular. And frankly, even if you are going to shoot USPSA, you can't spring for a Shadow, just get the regular one. Still not going to, it's not going to be the difference between you, like your placements in a match, most likely, right? Like, it's just not. So, to go into the details, with the SP01, I have the tactical one here, as I said, which tactical just means decocker. It's their fancy way of saying it has a decocker, not a safety, which means, as one would think, I can decock it to drop the hammer, puts it in a half cock position instead of all the way down, which is actually a little less travel when it's in half cock position. And yeah, so I would get the safety model, even though you can't decock it this way. You have to manually lower the hammer, specifically because they're a lot easier to work on. Like, if you're going to upgrade them, the safety model CZs are way easier to work on than the decocker ones, because the decocker models have a sear cage that is kind of a bitch. This is the first one I ever upgraded, was the decocker CZ. I did it myself. I'm not very mechanically inclined. I just used YouTube, and I was able to do it. But the Shadow's so much easier because there's just less parts, and they're way easier to work on. Another reason to get the safety model is there's going to be potential for a better trigger, both out of the box and upgraded, because there's less moving parts. The sear cage has less stuff in it because there's no decocker. So less metal rubbing metal every time you pull the trigger means a little better trigger. So that's what I would do. Get a safety model SP01 if you're going to go with SP01. Now the Shadow. The main difference between a stock Shadow, there's a bunch of differences, but the main one between a stock Shadow and the SP01 pistols is the lack of a firing pin block up here, right? And you can actually see it. There's a roll pin here, which is your firing pin block retaining pin, and you'll notice there isn't one here, okay? And a lot of people say, oh my god, that's scary, it's just going to go off. That's not how it works. You're not going to be able to apply the amount of force necessary to, like, discharge your gun because there's no firing pin block. The benefit of not having a firing pin block is that the trigger is going to be so much better, because once again, now there's even less metal on metal rubbing on each other, right? It's also a lot easier to work on. If you want to take the firing pin block out of this, not that it's that difficult, but you got to remove this roll pin. Then you can replace it with the Shadows. You can, and hopefully you can see it here, you actually just push this in, slide this back blade out, and replace your firing pin, or do whatever you need to do in there. So it's easier to work on them. And another benefit of that is, if you're a gamer shooting USPSA, whatever, you're probably going to be dry firing a lot. Well, I hope you'll be dry firing a lot. If you game and you don't dry fire a lot, you're never going to be that good at it. But if you dry fire a lot and you don't have a firing pin block, it means you don't need to use a snap cap or an O-ring on your gun. On a firing pin block CZ, and there's a lot of debate about this, but this is just the mechanical truth, you should have a snap cap or an O-ring. Now, does that mean if I dry fire my gun, without a firing snap cap, it's going to destroy it? No. But this retaining pin can get dented over time if you do it too much without a snap cap in there, and can actually jam up your firing pin and render the gun inoperable, because it'll literally, it happened to mine. Mine didn't go inoperable, but when I finally replaced it, like, it was about to be. This pin was like almost ripped in half. So if you're going to dry fire a lot, it's really nice to have a shadow, because I mean, you can click this all day and like it doesn't matter. So that's huge. The other thing with the shadow is, out of the box, yes, there's definitely going to be a better trigger because of the reasons I just said. You can, run this stock in USPSA, and the double action, it's not great stock on these, but it's way better than these. And if you shoot production, you have to start hammer down, so that double action kind of matters. So I'd say that is the main difference. There's some other differences, like there's little bells and whistles, like you get these extended safeties. Hopefully you can see that there, which at first I kind of didn't like because I just wasn't used to it, but now I like it because when I shoot one-handed, I can kind of use it as a shelf, which is nice. So you get things like that. They come with an extended mag release, which I didn't like because I found that it really dug into my hand when I gripped. So I actually put the regular one in there. And I know there's some other differences. The sights that come on it are going to be better. The hammer is going to be better. It's just a better gun out of the box. But you're still probably going to, if you game, you'll probably still wind up upgrading it. And none of these grips are stock either. So these are the SSI Shooting Sports Innovation Scale grips, which are, side note, the best grips I've found for a CZ pistol. I really like how they kind of have a taper out, and they're designed to mimic the shape of an STI 2011, and they really dig into your hand. And if you compete somewhere sweaty like I do and humid, that makes a big difference. But anyway, that's just a side note. So, in short, I'd say, if money isn't an option, just get a Shadow 1. Do not pay more than, I wouldn't pay more than $850, maybe even $800, because you're seeing Shadow 2s out there for like $1,000 on Gunbroker. If you're gonna spend $800, you might as well spend the extra $200 and just get a Shadow 2. Although something to consider, and mainly the reason I have a Shadow 1 and not a Shadow 2, is all my gear was already set up for this, right? My holster, stuff like that. And this way, my backup gun, which I take if I'm shooting a match, I always bring a backup gun because if something breaks, I don't want to just go home after driving 2 hours, to go shoot a major or whatever. My backup gun, this SP01 Tactical with Cajun Gunworks parts, is almost in this, kind of the same as this. So if you're going to be a serious gamer, usually you'll have 2 of the same gun. So that means 2 Shadow 2s, most likely. Unless you're going to bring this and have a different holster, because the holsters are not compatible. It's not the same gun. The Shadow 1, the Shadow 2 don't fit the same. But anyway, that kind of goes back, going back to what I'm saying, though. Don't pay more than $800 for this, because the price of the Shadow 2 has driven the price of a Shadow 1 down a lot. So just, keep that in mind. And don't pay more than $550 for a SP01 regular. That's what I would do. So the answer of, like, which is better, I'll say in a nutshell, if you're running a Cajun SP01 and you also have this, I mean, if you're shooting a match, it's so hard to, the difference between the two, like, yeah, this trigger's going to be better, but it's not going to be what makes you win or lose. It's going to be really up to the shooter and their ability. It's not like it's that different. I will say, if you shoot production, and I wish I had a nice trigger gauge to show you guys, but like my double action on this gun is like butter. Everyone who dry fires it is like, wow, that's really light. It's really smooth. Where on this one, it is crunchy, but it's still not like, I mean, if you're a trigger snob, you'll notice it, but if you're a gamer, you're not going to notice it when that buzzer goes off, and that's not going to be the difference between you hitting an Alpha or a Charlie. So I hope this helps. I'm sure there's some things I didn't cover. If you have any questions, just ping them in the comments, and I will answer as best that I can.